Welcome to CVR English. This is Naresh Kumar. Let's watch the world news. President Donald Trump attended the opening night of Les Miserables at Washington's Kennedy Center on June 11, 2025, marking his first visit since assuming the role of chairman earlier that year. His arrival was met with a mix of cheers and boos from the audience, reflecting the polarized public response to his leadership of the institution. Trump's administration has reshaped the Kennedy Center's board, replacing previous members with political allies, and has faced criticism for cancelling performances of shows like Hamilton and for proposing cuts to federal arts funding. Despite the controversy, the event raised over $10 million for the center.
We have all the funding. We raised a lot tonight, and we'll put in a lot of money to bring it back to the highest level, higher than it was ever before. And it's got great sound. You know, the bones are very good. The sound is great. You'll see that tonight.
It's been reported that some actors may be boycotting tonight.
I couldn't care less, honestly. All I do is run the country well. The economic numbers, you saw them today, they're setting records. We took $88 billion in tariffs in 2 months. Far beyond what anybody expected.
You're a New Yorker, you've been to a million theaters. Do you remember your first theater production that you attended?
Well, a long time ago, I would say maybe it was Cats.
Cats. First Lady, do you remember your first theater production you saw?
Phantom of the Opera.
Ah,
Are you a Les Mis fan, Mrs. Trump? I am.
that's great.
I am.
It's going to be great. Thanks. We have all the funding. We raised a lot tonight, and we'll put in a lot of money to bring it back to the highest level, higher than it was ever before. And it's got great sound. You know, the bones are very good. The sound is great. You'll see that tonight.
It's been reported that some actors may be boycotting tonight.
I couldn't care less, honestly. All I do is run the country well. The economic numbers, you saw them today, they're setting records. We took $88 billion.
California Governor Gavin Newsom condemned the President Donald Trump's deployment of U.S. Marines and National Guard troops to the Los Angeles on June 10, 2025. Newsom described the move as a reckless escalation that deepened tensions in the city. The deployment was part of a federal response to protest against immigration rights. Newsom filed a lawsuit against the administration, arguing that the action was unconstitutional and politically motivated.
Democracy is under assault before our eyes. This moment we have feared has arrived. Donald Trump, 1,000 of our state's National Guard members to deploy on our streets illegally and for no reason. This brazen abuse of power by a sitting president inflamed a combustible situation, putting our people, our officers, and even our National Guard at risk. Just yesterday, we filed a legal challenge to Donald Trump's reckless deployment of American troops to a major American city. Today, we sought an emergency court order to stop the use of the American military to engage in law enforcement activities across Los Angeles. If some of us could be snatched off the streets without a warrant, based only on suspicion or skin color, then none of us are safe.
They're incompetent, and they paid troublemakers, agitators, and insurrectionists. They're engaged in this willful attempt to nullify federal law and aid the occupation of the city by criminal invaders. That's what it is. They're invaders, no different. These are animals. But they proudly carry the flags of other countries. But they don't carry the American flag. They only burn it. Did you see a lot of the flags being burned? They weren't being burned by people from our country or from people that love our country. People that burn the American flag should go to jail for 1 year. That's what they should be doing.
Los Angeles remains under curfew for a second consecutive night amid escalating protests against federal immigration rights. Mayor Karen Bass has condemned the actions as a chaotic escalation, leading to over 400 arrests, including demonstrators and immigrants detained during the riots. In response, President Trump has deployed 4,000 National Guard troops and 700 Marines to support federal enforcement operations. The situation has sparked national debates over the militarization of the civil spaces and the protection of immigrant rights.
TSC1! Prepare to dismount! Prepare to dismount! 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 TSC1! Prepare to dismount! Prepare to dismount! Dismount! Dismount!
Harvey Weinstein was convicted on June 11, 2025 of a first-degree criminal sex act involving Miriam Halley, a former production assistant in a retrial following the overturning of his 2020 conviction. The jury acquitted him of charges related to the Gorgeous Sokolo, a former model, and it could not reach a verdict on third-degree rape charge involving Jessica Mann. The trial highlighted the complexities of high-profile sexual assault cases and the enduring impact of the movement.
We're going to Mulberry Street, guys. Watch this guy.
All right, you're like, yeah. I was like, all right.
He left already. We're going to Mulberry Street, guys. Watch this guy.
All right, you're like, yeah. I was like, all right.
He left already.
On June 10, 2025, a 14-year-old student fatally stabbed 31 years old teaching assistant Melanie outside Franco's Dolto Secondary School in Nogent, Eastern France. The attack occurred during a routine bag check aimed at curbing rising school violence. Melanie, a mother and former hairdresser, and had been part of the school staff since September. President Emmanuel Macron condemned the act as senseless wave of violence, and a nationwide minute of silence was observed in her honor on June 12th. Vance fled for his second night in a northern Irish town after what police have called racially motivated attacks sparked by the arrest of two teenagers accused of the attempted rape of a young girl. 5 people have been arrested on suspicion of riotous behavior, while a 6th was detained on suspicion of disorderly behavior in Newtown Nabbe, a town 30 kilometers away, one of 4 other places, including Belfast, where protests erupted. The White House clarified on June 11, 2025, the President Donald Trump supports peaceful protests, despite his earlier statement threatening very big force against any demonstrators at the upcoming military parade in Washington, D.C. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt emphasized that the President upholds the First Amendment and does not condone violence. The attributed recent unrest to Democratic leaders and reiterated Trump's commitment to law and order.
Violence of any kind. He does not support assaulting law enforcement officers who are simply trying to do their job. It's very clear for the president what he supports and what he does not. Unfortunately for Democrats, that line has not been made clear, and they've allowed this unrest and this violence to continue, and the president has had to step in.
So if there were peaceful protests on Saturday for the military parade, President Trump would allow that?
Of course the president supports peaceful protests. What a stupid question.
In the president's comments yesterday, though, he just said protesters would be strongly dealt with. Why is he not out saying all peaceful protesters will be protected?
I think 2 things can be important at the same time, and the president, as I just answered, supports the right of Americans to peacefully protest. He supports the First Amendment, but that is not the majority of the behavior that we have seen taking place in Los Angeles. We have seen mobs of violent rioters and agitators assaulting law enforcement officers, assaulting our federal immigration authorities. And we have seen, as I said, this goes back to what this administration is trying to do and accomplish, and that's enforcing law and order in our nation's communities. And it's removing public safety threats from communities in Los Angeles. Violence of any kind. He does not support assaulting law enforcement officers who are simply trying to do their job. It's very clear for the president what he supports and what he does not. Unfortunately for Democrats, that line has not been made clear, and they've allowed this unrest and this violence to continue, and the president has had to step in.
So if there were peaceful protests on Saturday for the military parade, President Trump would allow that?
Of course the president supports peaceful protests. What a stupid question.
In the president's comments yesterday, though, he just said protesters would be strongly dealt with. Why is he not out saying all peaceful protesters will be protected?
I think two things can be important at the same time. And the president, as I just answered, supports the right of Americans to peacefully protest. He supports the First Amendment. But that is not the majority of the behavior that we have seen taking place in Los Angeles. We have seen mobs of violent rioters and agitators assaulting law enforcement officers, assaulting our federal immigration authorities. And we have seen, as I said, this goes back to what this administration is trying to do and accomplish, and that's enforcing law and order in our nation's communities. And it's removing public safety threats from communities in Los Angeles. Violence of any kind. He does not support assaulting law enforcement officers who are simply trying to do their job. It's very
Russian drones struck Kharkiv early Thursday, June 12th, damaging an apartment block and hitting the courtyards of a school and a kindergarten. According to Mayor Ihor Terekov, at least 12 people, including children, have been reported injured. The incident is the latest in the ongoing war Russia launched against Ukraine in February 2022. While both sides deny targeting civilians, thousands mostly Ukrainians have lost their lives in the conflict. Visuals from the scene shows widespread damage and rescue efforts underway.
Еще шаг. The Austrian city of Graz is in deep mourning after a horrific school shooting claimed 10 lives. 2 days later, candles and flowers now line Hauptleitz Square and the school entrance as the community comes together in grief. Red Cross teams are on the ground offering psychological support, while emotional tributes pour in. against 2 men allegedly involved in violent acts during recent anti-ICE protests in Los Angeles and Paramount. Emiliano Galvez and Vracky Quigos, 27, are accused of throwing Molotov cocktails at police and now face charges for possessing unregistered destructive devices which carry a maximum 10-year federal sentence. U.S. Attorney Bill Hesely avowed more arrests, saying this is the beginning, not the end. Officials are actively reviewing social media and video evidence. The unrest is expected to escalate Saturday during nationwide anti-Trump protests, coinciding with a massive military parade in DC for the U.S. Army's 250th anniversary and Trump's 79th birthday.
On our agents and our properties here in the federal government. The escalation of violence by these rioters poses a serious threat to our agents and the safety of the public. Throwing rocks, explosives, assaulting agents, and committing other acts of violence are extremely dangerous and will not be tolerated. The President had no choice but to call in the National Guard to protect our assets and our personnel. The defendants charged in the complaints are accused of throwing Molotov cocktails at police officers and sheriff deputies who were called in to restore order after 2 demonstrations against federal immigration enforcement turned violent. We expect more charges to be filed in the coming days and weeks. If you took part in these riots and were looking to cause trouble, we will come looking for you.
I want to stand here and represent ATF and the public. ATF's firmly committed. These are the most aggressive criminal acts, and we will aggressively work with our state and local and federal partners to investigate the use of destructive device, arson or explosives or firearms to assault our public citizens and our public safety first responders.
We'll continue to work together to make sure our community remains safe and target those individuals that are doing harm to both our community members as well as our law enforcement officers as they try to keep peace in our communities right now.
Dozens of demonstrators marched through Baltimore on June 11th, rallying under the banner "No ICE Horse Here" to protest ongoing immigration rights under President Donald Trump's administration. Organized by the advocacy group CASA, the protest featured city council members including Odette Ramos, who urged citizens to stand up for neighbors and resist fear. The protesters passed locations where residents were reportedly detained by ICE agents, chanting slogans and holding banners. ICE has averaged 2,000 arrests per day in recent weeks, a sharp rise from 311 daily under Biden, according to the Department of Homeland Security. A group of 17 Palestinian children, including an 11-year-old boy who lost 9 siblings in an Israeli strike in Gaza last month, arrived in Italy on Wednesday for hospital treatment, accompanied by more than 50 family members. Adam Evan Najjar, who has multiple fractures, arrived with his mother at Milan's Lenate Airport where he was welcomed by Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani before being transferred to the city's Nigurada hospital. The plane that landed in Linet carried 5 others injured Palestinian miners while 11 more arrived on flights to other Italian airports. The May 23rd attack left Adam in a serious condition at Nasser Hospital, one of the few operational medical facilities in southern Gaza. That's the wrap up of the world news. Keep watching CVR English News.